must look to me now. I must justify my father's faith in me. Rule as he would have wished.
At any rate, we must begin.
There is none yet to control the...
In the matter of the bed change.
Your resources are small and your hazards are many.
Daeron Targaryen. He's a claimant to the throne. You're going to have to kill him.
You may not rule and remain yourself. There is in you a door that must shut. You will do things that your heart would have recoiled from.
I dispute that I must become what I am not.
Time will tell.
HBO has just dropped the official preview for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 3, and absolutely everything about this episode screams pivotal turning point. We're now looking at Rhaenyra Targaryen stepping into a role she never wanted but must now embrace, while the weight of the Iron Throne threatens to crush her from within. The trailer is absolutely packed with crucial information, character transformations, and game-changing moments that could reshape the entire trajectory of the Dance of the Dragon. So stick with us as we break down every single frame, analyze every piece of dialogue, and discuss what this all means for our favorite characters and the fate of the Seven Kingdoms. The trailer opens with this overwhelming sense of tension and gravitas. We see Rhaenyra finally taking her seat upon the Iron Throne, and this moment is absolutely monumental for her character development. After 2 full seasons of running from this responsibility, of trying to avoid bloodshed, and of making decisions from exile, Rhaenyra is now sitting in the most powerful position in all of Westeros. But here's the fascinating thing about this moment in the trailer. Despite the visual grandeur of the Iron Throne, despite the cameras panning across her sitting in that seat of power, there's an overwhelming sense of dread and uncertainty. The musical score is haunting, the lighting is dim, and Rhaenyra's expression is contemplative rather than triumphant. This immediately tells us something critical, that HBO is trying to communicate through the visual language of the trailer. Victory and power are not the same thing as peace and security. Rhaenyra may have won King's Landing, but the real challenge is only just beginning. As we see her sitting there, her voiceover kicks in with one of the most important lines in the entire trailer. She declares, "I must justify my father's faith in me." This is such a crucial statement because it reveals Rhaenyra's mindset going into this episode. She's not celebrating her military victory, she's not reveling in finally claiming the throne that should have been hers all along. Instead, she's thinking about her father, about Viserys, about living up to his legacy and his vision for what a peaceful Targaryen ruler could be. She also mentions that she wishes to rule as Viserys would have wished, which suggests she's trying to channel his political philosophy and his desire to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. However, this creates an immediate tension within the story because ruling like Viserys in a time of active civil war might be impossible. The Dance of the Dragons didn't pause just because Rhaenyra won King's Landing. The war is still very much ongoing, and there are multiple threats both inside and outside the Red Keep that will test her commitment to being merciful and just. One of the most revealing moments in the trailer comes when a council member approaches Rhaenyra with a warning. This unnamed advisor tells her something that's absolutely grounded in political reality. Her resources remain small, while her hazards remain many. This is a masterclass in how the show is setting up the core conflict of this episode and beyond. Despite controlling King's Landing and despite having dragons, Rhaenyra's actual power base is fragmented. The Stormlands are still in chaos, the Reach has fractured loyalties, and the Vale is becoming increasingly unreliable. Meanwhile, the Green Forces still have significant military strength, with Ormond Hightower commanding a formidable army. They have multiple dragons, including Tessarion and Vhagar, and there are still claimants to the throne who pose a threat. The council member's warning isn't just about military resources either. It's about the exhaustion of her allies, the strain on food supplies in a blockaded King's Landing, the morale of her supporters after witnessing the brutality of war, and the complicated political situations she now has to manage as an actual ruler rather than as a leader of a rebellion. This exchange is telling us that episode 3 is going to focus heavily on the practical challenges of governance. Rhaenyra has been fighting to take the throne, but now that she has it, she has to figure out how to hold it while dealing with an ongoing civil war. She can't simply pass judgments based on justice and mercy anymore. Every decision she makes now has far-reaching consequences. If she shows mercy to the wrong person, it could be interpreted as weakness. If she's too harsh, it could inspire more resistance and rebellion. It's a political tightrope walk, and the trailer is hinting that Rhaenyra isn't quite sure how to navigate it yet. Now let's talk about one of the most chilling moments in the entire trailer. Daemon Targaryen, the man who has been Rhaenyra's strongest supporter and her most aggressive military commander, appears with a deeply unsettling message. Daemon identifies Daeron Targaryen as a continuing threat to Rhaenyra's rule, and his advice is brutally pragmatic. He tells Rhaenyra directly, "You're going to have to kill him." These words hang in the air like a sword of Damocles. Daemon is essentially telling his wife that if she wants to truly secure her throne and prevent future challenges, she needs to eliminate Daeron before he becomes too powerful, or before his supporters can rally around him and launch another rebellion. This is classic Daemon. He sees the world in terms of power, threats, and the elimination of enemies. But it's also something much darker than that. Daemon is asking Rhaenyra to commit to regicide, to the cold-blooded murder of her own family member, even if that family member is the enemy. The significance of this moment cannot be overstated because it's testing Rhaenyra's commitment to ruling with justice and honor. She just said she wants to rule as Viserys would have, but Viserys would have likely found a way to handle Daeron without simply ordering his assassination. Daemon's advice represents the pragmatic, ruthless path to power, the path that countless rulers have taken throughout history, the path that leads to absolute security, but also to moral compromise and spiritual emptiness. The fact that Daemon feels comfortable enough to give this advice suggests that there's been a shift in his relationship with Rhaenyra, or perhaps that he's becoming increasingly frustrated with what he sees as her hesitation and weakness. But Daemon doesn't stop at warning her about Daeron. He delivers another line that might be even more profound and unsettling. "You may not rule and remain yourself." This is a haunting philosophical statement about the nature of power and what it does to people. Daemon is telling Rhaenyra that the process of wielding absolute power changes a person fundamentally. There's a price to ruling, and that price is your humanity, your morality, your sense of self. He elaborates by saying that a door within her must shut for her to succeed, implying that she needs to close off some essential part of her humanity, some compassionate or merciful aspect of her character that's necessary for survival, but incompatible with absolute power. This is Daemon essentially preparing Rhaenyra for the dark path ahead, warning her that if she wants to keep the throne and keep it secure, she'll have to become something she's not, something harder, something more ruthless. Fortunately, the trailer also shows us Rhaenyra's immediate response to Daemon's grim counsel, and it's a defiant one. She pushes back firmly against his philosophy, stating, "I dispute that I must become what I am not." This is Rhaenyra asserting her commitment to ruling with integrity and maintaining her moral center despite the pressures of absolute power. She's essentially rejecting Daemon's cynical worldview and insisting that there's a way to be a strong, effective ruler without sacrificing her fundamental values and character. This creates an interesting tension between Daemon and Rhaenyra that we'll likely see explored in the episode itself. Daemon represents the old way of Targaryen rule: fire and blood, ruthlessness, pragmatism, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to maintain power. Rhaenyra, on the other hand, is trying to forge a new path, a path where strength and justice go hand in hand, where ruling with wisdom and mercy doesn't mean being weak. However, we have to wonder how long Rhaenyra can maintain this position. The trailer's overall tone suggests that events are going to challenge her commitment to ruling with her values intact. We're constantly seeing imagery of dragons, warfare, destruction, and chaos. We see Rhaenyra awakening suddenly in her bed, clearly troubled by nightmares or visions. We see Aemon's voiceover saying, "She'll certainly fail," which suggests that Aemond and the remaining Green forces are confident that Rhaenyra's attempts to rule justly will ultimately lead to her downfall. The trailer seems to be asking us a question. Can Rhaenyra maintain her values in a world that's fundamentally unjust and chaotic? Or will she eventually have to become what she says she's not? One of the most poignant and revealing scenes in the trailer involves Rhaenyra visiting Alicent Hightower. Alicent has become a prisoner in the Red Keep, held captive by the woman who was once her closest confidant and friend, though their relationship has been strained by war and circumstance. What's significant here is that Rhaenyra has chosen to show Alicent mercy, rather than execute her or treat her with cruelty. This speaks volumes about Rhaenyra's character and her desire to be better than the brutality of war would typically allow. However, Alicent's response to this mercy is absolutely chilling. She tells Rhaenyra, "I see you have been merciful, but the crown is a weight that crushes. You'll do things that spell death for all involved." Alicent's words are almost prophetic. She's seen what absolute power does to people. She's seen it with Viserys, with Alicent herself when she was Queen Mother, and with every ruler that's come before. The crown doesn't just give you power, it takes something from you. It forces you to make impossible decisions. It forces you to hurt people you care about. Alicent has fallen from being a queen to being a prisoner, and yet in this moment, she seems to have more wisdom and foresight than anyone else. She's warning Rhaenyra, almost out of genuine care, that the path Rhaenyra is about to walk is going to cost her in ways she can't even imagine yet. This conversation between former friends, now locked on opposite sides of a conflict, is packed with emotional weight and thematic significance. The scene also raises questions about what happens to Alicent in the coming episodes. We know from the trailer that she becomes a prisoner, but we don't know what her ultimate fate will be. Will Rhaenyra keep her alive as a bargaining chip? Will she eventually be forced to execute her? Or might there be some kind of redemptive arc for Alicent, where her wisdom helps Rhaenyra navigate the treacherous waters of ruling during wartime? The fact that Rhaenyra shows her mercy in the first place suggests that Rhaenyra hasn't completely hardened her heart yet, that there's still a part of her that remembers her friendship with Alicent and recognizes the humanity in someone who's fought against her. Another deeply troubling moment in the trailer shows Helaena Targaryen weeping beneath the Red Keep's weirwood tree. Helaena has been one of the most sympathetic characters in the entire series, a sensitive and artistic young woman forced to participate in a brutal conflict that never wanted any part of her. She's lost children, she's witnessed the horrors of war, and she's been at the mercy of stronger personalities her entire life. The image of her weeping in this sacred place speaks to her spiritual and emotional devastation. Viewers have speculated that the trailer might also contain a birthing scene involving Helaena, which would suggest that she's pregnant during these events and dealing with the stress of impending motherhood while her world crumbles around her. This makes her character's arc even more tragic, because Helaena deserves peace and safety, but instead she's trapped in a nightmare of political intrigue and war. Helena's sorrow also serves as a counterpoint to Rhaenyra's struggle for power and control. While Rhaenyra is grappling with the weight of the throne and trying to figure out how to be a good ruler, Helaena is simply trying to survive and protect what remains of her family. Her story reminds us that the Dance of the Dragons isn't just about politics and power. It's about the real human cost of civil war, the way it devastates ordinary people, the way it breaks families and hearts. The trailer also gives us glimpses of several ongoing military threats and political challenges. We see the Hightower army, commanded by Ormond Hightower, who is described as a formidable military leader. More importantly, we see Tessarion, the Blue Queen Dragon, which indicates that Daeron Targaryen is going to play an active role in the coming episodes. The presence of Tessarion and the Hightower forces means that Rhaenyra's enemies are still very much organized and dangerous. We also see references to events at Tumbleton and other locations that suggest the War of the Five Kings is reaching new levels of complexity and brutality. One particularly interesting visual that the trailer hints at is the appearance of what might be a false Daeron, or a deceptive presentation of Daeron to Daemon. This is fascinating because it suggests there might be some kind of trick or deception involved, perhaps related to the use of Daeron's image for propaganda purposes, or possibly some kind of substitution or imposter. This adds another layer of intrigue and paranoia to the political situation in King's Landing. When you step back and look at the trailer as a whole, the central theme becomes abundantly clear. The transformation of Rhaenyra from a sympathetic figure fighting for what's rightfully hers into something more complicated, more powerful, and potentially more dangerous. The trailer is showing us the beginning of Rhaenyra's descent into the kind of ruler that Daemon is urging her to become. Every decision she makes, every mercy she shows, every act of ruthlessness she's forced to commit is shaping her into someone new. By the end of this season, we might not recognize the woman sitting on the Iron Throne. Episode 3 appears to be the pivotal moment where this transformation truly begins. It's no longer about winning the war, it's about what winning costs. It's no longer about being right, it's about being effective. It's no longer about staying true to your values, it's about doing what needs to be done. The trailers are hinting that Rhaenyra is going to face impossible choices, and some of those choices will fundamentally alter who she is as a person. Before we wrap up, let's talk about some of the behind-the-scenes details that make this episode special. Episode 3 of Season 3 marks a historic milestone for the entire Westeros franchise. This is the 100th episode in the combined universe of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and the upcoming A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms series. It's a massive achievement for HBO and for the franchise overall. The episode was written by Sarah Hess, a prolific writer for the series who has worked on many of the most crucial episodes. It's being directed by Claire Kilner, who is now one of only 4 directors in the franchise to have helmed 7 or more episodes. Kilner has proven herself to be an exceptional visual storyteller, capable of handling massive battle sequences, intimate character moments, and politically charged conversations with equal skill. Episode 3 of House of the Dragon Season 3 is set to premiere on July 5th, 2026 on HBO and HBO Max. That's coming up incredibly soon, and we're already counting down the days. Based on everything we've seen in the trailer, this episode is going to be absolutely essential viewing for anyone who's invested in this story and these characters. We're going to see Rhaenyra confront the reality of ruling during wartime. We're going to see her relationships tested as allies and enemies alike reveal their true colors. We're going to see the continuing saga of the Dance of the Dragons reach new heights of complexity and tragedy. The House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 3 trailer has given us so much to analyze and discuss. We've seen glimpses of Rhaenyra's journey as she steps into her role as queen. We've heard Daemon's ominous warnings about the price of power. We've witnessed the falling of Alicent from queen to prisoner, and we've caught hints at the continuing military threats that surround King's Landing. The trailer's overall tone suggests that we're entering a new phase of the Dance of the Dragons, one where the scale of conflict is expanding, where more players are entering the game, and where the moral complexity of civil war becomes increasingly apparent. What's most compelling about this trailer is what it tells us about Rhaenyra's character arc. She begins this season as someone who is dragged into war, someone who fought because she had to, someone who mourned every casualty and every loss. But the trailer suggests that by taking the throne, by facing the endless demands and impossible choices that come with absolute power, Rhaenyra is going to be transformed. She might become stronger, more effective, more commanding. But she might also lose something essential in the process. She might become exactly what Daemon is warning her she'll become, someone new, someone harder, someone who is no longer entirely herself. This is what makes House of the Dragon such compelling television. It's not just about dragons and battles, though those are thrilling. It's about the personal cost of power, the way politics corrupts and changes people, and the struggle to maintain your integrity in a world that constantly demands that you compromise it. Episode 3 looks like it's going to be the episode where all of those themes come into sharp focus, where Rhaenyra makes the first of many difficult choices that will define her reign. Let us know in the comments what you think is going to happen in Episode 3. What do you think about Daemon's warnings? Do you think Rhaenyra will be able to maintain her values while ruling the Seven Kingdoms? What do you think is going to happen to Alicent? Let us know all your thoughts, predictions, and theories in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel MM+A, and we'll see you in the next one.